There were all kinds of answers, and I wrote down each and every one in a big idea soup. That's what I call my written brainstorm sessions because they always look like a big, messy bowl of possibility. Anytime I'm creating a soup, my goal is to find at least 20 ideas for how I'm going to get there. I put down anything I can think of, and since it's a brainstorm, I don't debate whether the idea is good. I just write it down. Write a book proposal, get a literary agent, grow my social media following, establish myself as an expert in this field, research book proposal, hire graphic designer, hire photographer, do recipe testing, and so on. The problem with stopping at this soup, besides the fact that it's overwhelming, is there are too many possible directions to head. We want to create a clear direction, and this brainstorm page, while awesome to get your wheels spinning, is likely to create a lot of stops and starts and unproductive attempts. So, in order to move forward, we've got to get it organized. The question is, how do we do that? The answer, surprisingly, with another question. Look at your brainstorm and ask yourself, of all the ideas you've got there, what are the 3 major things that, if you actually achieved them, they would, without question, get you to your goal? Getting from 20 ideas down to 3 might seem impossible, especially since so many of them would be helpful, but I'm convinced that if you force yourself to come up with only 3, those 3 will be the guideposts you'll need to get you back on track if you get lost along the way. How do you choose your 3? Go to your end goal and ask yourself, what is the step that comes just before this? Then choose 2 more guideposts, working back from there. The thing about a guidepost is that it's something you cannot easily achieve without taking a bunch of other steps to get you there. People often hesitate to write these down because they seem nearly as impossible as the dream itself. Their brains immediately start coming up with all the reasons that it's going to be impossible to achieve. Maybe they're like, sure, I can write down the thing, but eventually reality creeps back in, and my negative self-talk creeps back in, and I don't know how I'm going to get there, and gosh, I'd like to do this thing, but I don't. No. Don't focus on the lack. Don't worry about how you'll hit each guidepost. How will stop you dead in your tracks. Obsessing over the how is what stops us from going anywhere. Right now, we're not focused on the how. We're focused on the what. As in, what steps do I need to take to make this goal a reality? For my publishing journey, my roadmap started to take form when I forced myself to come up with my 3 guideposts. The very last step before getting a deal for publishing a cookbook is submitting a proposal to publishing houses. Guidepost number 3. Okay, so what's the step before that? Well, Google told me that in order to submit to a publishing house, I have to have a literary agent. No publisher will just blindly accept a manuscript off the street. So finding a literary agent became the second guidepost on my map. Then I asked myself what I would need to secure a literary agent. There are so many ways to land one, but they all had one central thing in common. I'd need to create a proposal of some kind to explain what I wanted to do. That became the first guidepost in my roadmap. I had a starting point and an ending point and 3 major guideposts on the way. Now I was able to figure out the how, or as I like to call them, the mile markers. I had forced myself to come up with 3 major guideposts, but the mile markers can be numerous because these are all the little things, all the hows you're going to need to figure out and do to get you to that next guidepost. To identify them, you start at the beginning of your roadmap for the first time since you began laying it out, and you do another idea brainstorm with this question. What do I need to do to get my starting point to my first guidepost? I suggest putting on some pump-up music and writing as much as you can, as fast as you can, anything that pops into your head. Don't even think about it. Just write down every idea you can think of that in any way could help you get to your first guidepost. I call this a possibilities list. Let's say your goal is to start a wedding planning business. Yes, I'm writing what I know, which means that your third guidepost would be to land some clients. Well, then your second guidepost would be to make sure your potential clients know about your business. You'll need a portfolio, an Instagram account, or a website where potential brides can see your work. Of course, none of that matters if you don't have any work to show off. So your first guidepost has to be the creation of that content. Since I have made this exact possibilities list to get me to this exact guidepost, I can tell you that the questions I asked myself along the way looked like this. How do I get content? Photographers, florists. Should I partner with someone to design and produce different looks? Could I volunteer my time with other wedding planners in exchange for photos in my portfolio? How have other people created portfolios? Are there books I could read on this topic? Are there influencers I can follow who are talking about this subject?